According to the NDS, about 70% of Nigerians have access to clean water, but that access is expensive. Let's begin from there. The access to potable water in Nigeria. Even though 70%, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, have access to clean potable water, it comes at a huge cost.
You know, it's so worrisome to me as a person when I hear government officers come out, make statements and make the world look as if it's a rocket science to get things done. It's so unfortunate. I am asking myself, why do we have to wait for Hungary to do some little things that does not even require money at first? Let's say you can take a camera and just look behind the marina here.
Just surrounded by a body of water.
This is water. Go and check out what is there. It's filthy. We don't need EU or a European country to tell us that this water is a resource, that people should not abuse the water. We throw refuse in the water. That's our waste bin. And then you begin to wonder, what's the ministry really doing? Do we need to go to Hungary to go and do training? To learn first and foremost to clean our water space? That everybody know in the whole world that tourism grow around water. All the body of water in Nigeria, from here to Benue, to Anambra, to Calabar, to Akwa Ibom, look at what we're doing with it. It's so annoying. I'll be here talking about Hungary collaborating with Nigeria to harness our water resources, which nature has given to us freely. Is Hungary the size of Lagos? So it amuses me that we do not have shame as a people. And when we are celebrating things that should not really be mentioned when thinking men are sitting down. So that for me is really a challenge. We have 12 river basin development authority in Nigeria along this water area. All you hear is that they are not funding us. Do we really need money to do some basic elementary work?
But to the issue of whether or not money is required to attend to basic work. Now, the partnership with Hungary is majorly for technology to manage water. Do you think that this...
What technology is required to first and foremost clean your water surface? What technology?
Now, you find that for many houses that have, where you have boreholes, the water coming out for some parts of Lagos is not even clean. So it's even beyond the rivers.
Now you are getting into a different space, which I don't even want to talk about.
But we have to talk about it.
In the 1970s, Nigerians were drinking pipe-borne waters. In my village, there was no electricity, but there was pipe-borne water. 35 years after, those villages are gathering rainwater to drink. I traveled all to the way to Igbogila, a village very close to Benin Republic. I saw public water. The taps are there. The question you ask yourself is, in the 1970s, we didn't have this resource, which we are having as of today. And we had good life. The villages had access. And now that we are making billions and trillions of budget, we are talking about borehole in Nigeria. It's a shame. It's a deep shame. And I think that those who have the responsibility to do this work should be ashamed of themselves. They don't need partnership to be able to harness the things that nature has given to you. How can we be satisfied with taking pictures and not working? This for me is where we need to begin to talk.
Okay, so according to the Minister for Water and Sanitation, now he noted that the partnerships could lead to innovative solutions, which brings us back to, I know you talk about what fund is needed, what technology is needed, but let's look at what has happened from the time when villages even had pipe-borne water to now. Some of those pipes in the course of development have even been dug out. Some of them are now rusty, and some water board corporations in many states are no longer functioning. Now, considering the developments that we have and the large population that we have now compared to then, don't you think that some form of innovative solution will be needed so that every house can still have that pipe-borne water and it's clean?
Well, that's a minimum. That's a minimum. You know, I use NDDC like a case study. When NDDC was inaugurated, I think, was it 2004, 2006, the budget that was going to NDDC was like 80% of that fund was spent on basic projects, capital projects, and 20% was invested in overhead. 10 years after, it has flipped. We are spending over 90% on overhead, and we're only doing 10% on critical infrastructure. You see, this is for me where we need plenty of accountability. Do you know how much development partners has invested in this same pipe-borne water? This is what we should be having conversation with. You see, because why water is very important. For us, we are blessed with body of surface water than any country you can think about. We are blessed with rainfall, which of course, across the place, what are we going to do with rain, this small water that is falling every day? How are we harnessing it? And we're looking like a small country like Israel that is converting waste water to clean water. Because in the desert you don't have water. We see UAE channeling water from the ocean into their desert. And sometimes they have to seed rain to fall. You see, if we don't have competence, probably that is where the whole issue really lies. We have water everywhere. We have small river everywhere. I came back from Kigali, no single river. In the whole of Kigali, only one small dam. They have no water. So they are landlocked. The entire of Rwanda has access to clean water. The whole Rwanda, not just Kigali, have access to clean water. These things are not rocket science. We should stop speaking grammar and get to work. And I think this is what those who have responsibility, if they give you and you are made, let's even be seeing what you are doing locally to get problems solved before we are looking for partners partners. What's the size of Hungary compared to Nigeria? They were looking up to them to come and give us technology to do water. What is difficult in channeling water, digging hole for irrigation, so that people can have good farm? That we can even monetize this for farmers to buy water to irrigate their farms because it's commercial. And one of the things that people don't really realize is that water is a depleting resources. Now, with the climate change challenge that we face today, you wake up one day, there'll be no more water.
All right, let's look further into some of the things that the State Minister for Water Resources and Sanitation talked about. Like I said at the beginning of the discussion, that this partnership did not start now. It began even before the COVID-19 pandemic. So the minister emphasized the importance of the collaboration with Hungary. So he says he's hoping that this part will cover aspects of river basin management, waste and water management, and water-related educational research and development. Now let's talk about waste and water management, because that seems to be the major challenge when it comes to clean water in Nigeria. In the way waste is being managed currently, what are some of the innovations that should happen? You've talked about how Dubai has been able to do lots of things. Even where they didn't have the natural water body, they created that. You talked about that of Kigali. What are we missing? Because we have the natural body water, but it's being contaminated, like you said. If you look around the water body that we're surrounded with, it is filthy. People dumping waste into some of these water bodies, contaminating the water source, even the ones below the ground.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't know where really we should situate the challenge. Coming to work this morning, I was saying to my son, I can now understand what Lee Kuan Yew meant when he said in his book that the first step he needed to take in transforming Singapore was to remove third world mentality from their head. Now, what is this third world mentality? This is an indisciplined culture. Have you seen somebody jump out from his car and is weighing by the road? Indiscipline. I can't stop talking about the open defecation. Even this afternoon now, just go to Akpongbo area. You are seeing people who are defecating inside the water. So this is a problem. People eat and throw refuse everywhere. And now, the wealth inside the water is massive. Ocean wealth alone. You know when people are talking about marine, there are countries in the world that all they are relying on is just fish.
For sustenance.
Oh yeah. And the business is huge. But here we are throwing refuse into the water. Some of them are rubber, cellophane, that destroy the life in the water body. So we can't harvest fish here because some people are not doing this well. Now, if you go to the other side, you're seeing a whole lot of flaring because of poor technology in drilling gas and crude. So the whole body of water is contaminated. You know, somebody asked and said, who did this to us? That even as a people, we can't really sit down to think of simple solutions to problem. And then we must have to, you see, what this means, and this is, I'm just looking at it, and I thank God that the president also came out that day and said, look, let's suspend even foreign travel first. Let's face our problem. And I think that's what the minister should be doing right now. They should be facing the problem that is at home. Because traveling all the way to Hungary to go and do training, like we are saying here, is just capital flights for us at the moment. We need that money here.
Okay. Talking about homegrown solutions now to the challenge of water. First, let's talk about homegrown solutions to managing waste. Is it about a lack of education or because there are no punitive measures? That is why people will go about and contaminate the water sources. And then, if we're talking about the solutions, should it be government-driven or private sector-driven?
Well, I think it has to be a mix of both. It has to be a mix of both because there's a whole lot of wet in waste. And that's why a lot of people are talking about circular economy today, really, where you are converting your waste to wealth. So this is important, and this is also fundamental. How are we going to sort our waste such a way that from the household, we are able to isolate items and then we properly dispose them. And some of these items, they are reusable. So we need that sensitization first and foremost. And that was why in the show yesterday I was also emphasizing hugely that there are basic things that we need to teach in schools. Basic etiquettes for life. Basic hygiene for human beings. Now, all these are missing.
Are they really missing? Because I remember very well that even at a primary school level, we're taught some of these things. Hygiene, how to keep the environment clean, and several other things. Even today, you have a subject like civic education that should teach citizens their duties, what they should do. But what is missing?
This is what is missing. What's missing is because that civic you are seeing in school is an examined course or subject. The student need to pass. They don't need to know it.
So it's just for the purpose of examination.
You know, like Adam Shomoli said recently, that the school teach you to memorize things even when you don't know what they mean. So you just cram it. So you can pour it out even when you don't know what exactly what it is. So this is what the education system in Nigeria has done to us. Why will civic become an examined subject in school? It's not something people to write exam to pass. Because once you make it an examined subject, a lot of people will go and study to cram to pass. But these are in the things that you do. Take, for example, sanitation. We get the children to say, what's the importance of sanitation? You remember, when you were in school, in those days, if you come late to school, they ask you to go and pick refuse. What was that? Punishment. So, what does that teach us? Come to school early so that you will not be punished. But should sanitation be an issue of punishment?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
So, this is where education is important and is fundamental. The president of Kigali, every last Saturday of the month, joined the citizens in Rwanda to do cleanup. And that cleanup, he participates, his wife, his children, everybody participates. So here, sanitation or cleanliness is like punishment.
Because that's the psychology.
That's the psychology around it. So people should be taught to embrace that cleanliness is godliness. So this means that all of us have to take part in it, not as a punitive measure for people who have some misdemeanor. This is a problem, and this is fundamentally what is wrong. On the last Sunday of every month in Rwanda, for 6 hours, nobody drive car. Doesn't matter who you are. Except there's an emergency, then you have to call an ambulance. Everybody dropped their cars for 6 hours. So that the entire society can exercise. Young, old, and adult, they are walking freely on the streets. And you can imagine the volume of carbon emission that is reduced at least once in a month when cars are not moving on the streets. That does not require money to implement.
Let's look at why Hungary is brought into the picture. Yes, they paid a courtesy visit to Nigeria, but before that visit, which brought about this discussion, there had been a prior arrangement for collaboration towards this. Now, Hungary is one country that is committed to assisting developing nations. Perhaps that's why they also want to be part of this to ensure access to clean water for Nigeria. But you are of the opinion that the solution should be homegrown. And then we're talking about the partnership or the solution, how it should come. Should it be private driven or a combination of both or even government driven? So far, for the 70% of Nigerians that MBS says have access to clean water, I know that a lot of that has been made possible by private individuals, because in almost every home you go to in urban centers in Nigeria, you would find that the house has a borehole. So where do we take this from? Do we have a general pool from where water is distributed, or everybody just goes on to begin to drill their boreholes?
You see, again, this is where really the Ministry of Water Resources, in terms of regulation, should be able to come out with very stringent policy on how people access water.
Such as?
Now, Lagos here, for example, almost every house has a borehole. And nobody is thinking about the implication of drilling borehole. Because for every borehole you drill, you are cracking the earth crust, the stone that is holding this earth together. So you can imagine that in almost all the homes in Lagos, that hole had been cracked. That even when people have said that Nigeria was not prone to earthquake, but we have seen signs of earthquake. We have had tremor twice in Abuja recently. And that is because we are destroying nature. Because we have left every individual to provide water for themselves. This is the issue. If the ministry cannot provide water, what stopped the ministry from getting investors in that sector? Just as we are providing electricity, then of course you have companies who are water companies, and then of course they invest resources, channel water into homes, and then they are paid for. Then you do two things. You made resource, you empower some people, and of course you preserve your environment. This is where they should be thinking, so that we don't leave the management of water, the body of water, and the whims and caprices of individuals who are not regulated. I'm not even sure that states know where the boreholes are. I don't know how many of permit that is required for borehole to be sunk.
But if they go by the way of permits, would that not just increase the cost of drilling the borehole and not take care of some of the challenges that
No. It's not about costs. In short, I remember a year ago, in the part of Lagos where I live, there's public water. But the problem with public water is that it comes, it goes, it comes, it goes. Sometimes in 1 month you don't see it. And almost every house resolved to do a borehole. And I try to convince all the landlords in that place, even if we want to do borehole, let the entire street have just one. But our ego will not allow us. So you are seeking borehole in every house. That is a danger. Now, most of this water too are not treated, and they are really not clean water, because by your one side there is a SOUQ away that is emptying into the body of water underground. Then on the other side you have your borehole.
Do we need a new plan? The plan that was in existence before that provided clean water to homes directly from one common source for each particular area, when we had the water corporation supplying water. Can that same plan work now?
Yeah, but you see, most of the basic infrastructure have been destroyed by civilization and things like that. Now, you need to really sit down and draw a plan on how to get everybody have access to water. And this, of course, is not going to be done in one phase. It's just like we're talking about the coastal water road now. Government has a plan that this is this stretch of road. This is how much this stretch of road is going to cost. But we are not able to take it on at once. So we are starting with this 41 kilometers. Then when we are done with this phase, we move into phase 2. Then we move into phase 3. We move into phase 4. And then the project is complete. You need such definite plan on the ground, and to know where we're starting from and where are we going to end. What kind of resources is required to get Nigerians have clean water? It can be estimated. And then we know that we cannot do this in 1 year. We know it cannot happen in a lifetime of an administration in 8 years. But we're starting somewhere to say, this program, we have pillar 1, pillar 2 to pillar 10. And we're starting at a certain neighborhood, but we're hoping that in 20 years, in 30 years, we would have been able to go around everywhere, and this problem would have been nipped in the bud. So that's for me what plan is, and it's strategic. And you're also looking at where funding is going to come, so that even when you are having such partner come to you, you can actually seed a phase of this project to the partners. And this is what we are doing. This is where we need the resource. And then, of course, you can actually have a better and more fruitful negotiation. That to have an abstraction as a plan, and then you're asking people to buy into that abstraction. What we're seeing right now, even the so-called water bill, is not detailed enough. You know, I said to somebody recently, one of the big challenges that I have seen about our country is the fact that when we are thinking policy, the first thing we think about is money. And that's quite absurd to me. That all people are thinking about is we can make money from water. Because if you look at the big critically, that's what it is. It's looking at the money side of the water. But we're not looking at the human factors. This is where the disconnect is. When government make policy, it's for the good of society. money we can save from clean water. Like I was whispering to you, imagine how much Nigerians spend treating typhoid, which is a known waterborne disease. That's massive to our economy. So if we have clean water, we'll be free from typhoid.
Even be help to the health sector.
People. So I think this is where it's about how much life by doing this is the driving force. And of course, when you solve it, you can eventually commercialize it and money come with it. But here we talk money first before the people. So we need a comprehensive strategy to see how do we deliver the people first before thinking the money component of this deliverance. It's okay, this is going to cost money, but for the health of they have to be smart enough, specific plan and programs and projects that are measurable, things that are realistic, achievable and time-bound. You can say, okay, this is going to happen in 10 years. This is going to happen in 5 years. This is going to happen. This is what we are going to be doing. This is the project that is tied to each of the phases. Now, once you have that comprehensive document, then you are ready to work.
All right, so let's hope that as the conversation continues between Nigeria and Hungary, the necessary plan that will ensure that every Nigerian has access to clean drinking water will be laid out, and we'll have to see that. We'll see that coming to fruition in no short time, because very distant time, because water is critical to daily living. You need water to cook, you need water to have your bath, water to even have a clean environment. So water is very critical.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.